Okay, guys, so this is our family room. This is in the morning when everyone's totally asleep, super clean. The boys sleep in a bunk bed, and then our bed is across from theirs, so I can see Gabriel and Gianni. Gabriel's oxygen and heart is monitored through his foot all night. The thick tube is actually from the high flow, which puts pressure into the lungs, and then the oxygen is connected to it with the concentrator. The boys are pretty wild and active when they wake up in the morning. Today we're going to the hospital for Gabriel's shots, and these are all his medications that he takes daily. This is his formula, and this is me making his formula. I make it every morning for the whole day. Gabriel's fed through a G tube, and my husband AJ has already done the first feed, which was super, super early in the morning before he left for work. I'm just switching out Gabriel's oxygen from the high flow to regular oxygen so he's free and he can roam around. But first I have to vent him, which means I have to get all the gas out of his tummy. He cannot fart or burp like we do because of the type of surgery he had, and so it makes it very difficult. He a lot of times gets really uncomfortable, screams, looks like he's pretty much going to explode, and if we don't do it on time, he throws up, and this happens probably over 20 times a day. So this is the process that we have to do. We have to get all the air out through his belly. That's the milk that he ate before, and then I have to push down all the milk back into his belly after all the air comes out so that he still gets nutrients, but all of the air is not in his belly anymore. And then I flush it with water to make sure it doesn't get clogged or anything like that. He's pretty good about it because he knows that it's going to help him. That's the monitor that's on his foot all night. So I take it off and he's really excited about it. And he knows that means we're going to be doing something. So this is me just preparing his food. I know he's going to get shots today, so I prepare the Tylenol already. I usually give it to him 30 minutes before the shot's going to be given. These shots are for his lungs. They actually protect his lungs from getting any major viruses. And I just prep everything to make sure that I have every little thing I need in order to vent him and to feed him at the hospital. Gabriel feeds every 4 hours. He gets Elecare Jr. It is a fortified formula, and he gets gas drops. It's also fortified a lot more because the doctors want him to get more calories, and then he also gets meds every 4 hours as well for acid and to keep his lungs open and at tension. And then I ice pack everything in order to make sure everything's fresh when I get to the hospital. Next, I'm checking if the traveling concentrator has all of its batteries and that it's all charged. This is the whole shindig that I have to take with me to the hospital. It literally has everything like snacks, meds, diapers, everything. Now I'm transferring the high flow to the family room so that it's prepped and everything when I get home from the hospital because I really don't want to have to think about it. So in the high flow, you need to use distilled water. This just keeps everything humidified so that his lungs and his nasal passage isn't dried out. And yeah, I just have to make sure that it is full so that when I come home, I don't have to do it. And then it'll tell me when it's ready. Okay, so Gabriel again needs to be vented. He's showing me signs again that he needs to be vented. Not only that, Gianni always reminds me when Gabriel's getting like that he needs to be vented, which is really great because sometimes I may not see the signs because I'm doing something. But he is a really good big brother. Next, I got to get Gianni ready. So while Gabriel's watching TV in the family room, I get Gianni ready, explain to him what's going to be going on throughout the day, that his brother has to get shots, and that we will be at the hospital for a certain amount of time. I bribe him with chocolate milk. Plus, the nurses and doctors at the hospital always have something for Gianni, so he's always really excited to see the doctors and to talk to them and ask 20 billion questions. Here is my double espresso, and then now I'm going to do Gabriel's hair because I really feel like I need my kids to look like they're put together. If they're put together, then I look put together. So that's just a theory I have. But I always feel they look cute, and then this is how I transfer Gabriel into the car seat with everything connected, and then I unconnect him from the regular concentrator at the house to the traveling concentrator. This works just like the other one that we have. It just travels with us. It plugs into the car, which is great. And if there's a power outage, that's great. I power this down and I turn that off, make chocolate milk for Gianni and take my coffee with me, then get our shoes on and we're out the door. And Gabriel loves being outside. By the way, we live on the 4th floor, so we have to get into an elevator, and There's a lot of doors that are heavy. The elevator sometimes doesn't work, which really sucks, and it's really tiny, as you can see, so I have to go at an angle. And this apartment complex, for whatever reason, has no ramps, which really sucks when I have a really, really heavy stroller and it's like over 100 pounds. There's only one handicap in this apartment complex, which really sucks. A lot of people will look at me all weird because I'm always parking in there. But the parking is really, really hard. There is no parking space for our apartment. And then as I was going to get in the car, as you can see, Gabriel's having another attack. So I had to stop everything, vent him, and then put him back in the car, plug everything in so everything's charging as we go. And then I got to get this huge thing in the car, which is where all my pains and aches come from, really. Our drive in the morning to Stanford is usually about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic and what's going on. I also have to remind the doctors and the nurses when we schedule to be mindful that Gabriel is on oxygen and he's on a traveling concentrator, which means it runs on batteries and it's not pure oxygen. Usually our big tanks of pure oxygen last about 6 hours each, but they're really hard to travel with and we have to get them replenished very, very quickly. When Gabriel gets his treatments, it's usually in the old part of the hospital. All treatments are done on that side of the hospital. And then anything else, scans or x-rays or even just admission, is going to be in the new side of the hospital. So now I have to get Gabriel's stuff situated. The stroller, I have to make sure that I lock in the traveling concentrator so it isn't rolling around. I also have to make sure that I have all of Gabriel's feeding supplies and any of his documentations. We also have a handicap placard so that we can park in the front for Gabriel as well, so there's not a long walk because he's not supposed to be outside that long. And then I have to get Gianni out of the car, make sure I have coffee, make sure I have his chocolate milk and his breakfast, and then I have to transfer Gabriel into the stroller. I also make sure that I have to cover his stroller because we don't want anybody touching him, sneezing on him, that sort of stuff. Gianni's wearing a mask because right now everything is on high alert for the coronavirus, which really, really sucks. We actually ordered a plastic cover to go over so that Gabriel can actually see because he hates not being able to see now that he's older. When he was a baby, it wasn't so much a problem. So this is the entrance. When you come in, you have to get a badge and you have to make sure that they know who you are and who your children are. And this is the SSS unit where Gabriel gets all of his infusions, all of his bigger shots or medications done. This is the room. They usually weigh him first, and they weigh him naked because I want to make sure he's gaining weight. That has been a problem lately with him, where he's not gaining weight as rapidly as they would like him to. In this unit, everyone knows Gabriel. He usually gets infusions, the big time shots, or he gets any of his blood draws or IVs done here. So he already knows what's going on. I'm giving him Tylenol to make sure that he's good before they start these shots. These shots are to protect his lungs from major viruses. They're called Synagis, and they're both done in the legs at the same time. This shot is done every 28 days for 6 months during cold and flu season, which totally sucks for him, but it definitely helps if Gianni gets sick because by the time we notice that Gianni's sick, then we're able to transfer him to my mom so that my mom could take care of him and he's not around his brother, which totally sucks, but at least we're protecting Gabriel. This is the reason why Gianni hasn't been able to go to preschool because we've been protecting Gabriel from getting any major viruses. A lot of the normal viruses that any of the kids would get is potentially fatal for Gabriel. We've been in ICU over 25 times the past year, so we just try to keep him as safe as possible. So now we're back at the apartment. Getting back up is a challenge. As you can see, there are no ramps, and this is really just the smallest elevator ever. Then once we get home, I start to turn on all of his machines, and I start hooking them up to him. Because he's been off of the high flow for such a long time, I want to make sure he gets pressure into the lungs. And then I also need to feed him once he gets home. So I'm just warming up the milk, putting it into his bag. This bag gets a lot of air in it, so I'm getting all the bubbles out. And then I have to run the milk through it. I also connect his meds to the bag as well, so that way when I just connect it to his G-tube on his stomach, it's just easy to put in and start the feed. And then as you can see, I'm just running the milk through. That way he doesn't get any extra air in his belly, because that's the problem. When he has one of those attacks, it's because he has too much air in the belly. Now I'm connecting him to his feed. It lasts about an hour to 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I put a movie on for him so that he's really calm. And then I have to vent him. If you see in the line when I'm venting him and pushing all of the air out, you'll see how there's like bubbles. Once I get the bubbles out, then I put the milk back in and he's able to play. As you can see, he has taken out all his toys from his box. He is standing with assistance. He also can crawl and bounce up and down on his knees. He is learning how to walk right now. He can say mama, dada. He can sign mama, dada. He can sign when he has more air in his belly. He can say no with his head. We do have a child start therapist that comes and helps him with all those skills that he needs to know. But slowly but surely, she said he'll get there. So we're not in a hurry. These are all his medical supplies. I have a ton of medical supplies. I have to order medical supplies every month. I have to order his formula every month, all his feeding supplies every month, and I store them all in here and in another closet as well because there's so much. We also have 8 full tanks just in case if the power goes out and his machines aren't working and we have to transport him somewhere, which can be kind of scary. We also have a generator too. And then this is his massage therapist. She's actually massaging Gabriel as he's sleeping. He totally fell asleep. We do have like 3 to 6 appointments a week at the house with his therapists. And now I'm feeding him because it's time to feed again. He feeds every 4 hours, which can seem kind of crazy because the feeds last an hour. So this is pretty much what the kids do while he's feeding. I get another double shot of espresso because I'm just so tired. And then he wants to play again once he's done. And of course, we have to vent him a couple times. I'm not showing you guys every single vent because there's just too many. But yeah, it's a process, and it'll probably be something that he'll have to deal with for a couple years. He loves playing with his brother and his dad. He loves to crawl up on the couch. He is just a crazy active toddler as any other toddler. Now I'm getting another cup of coffee because I really, really need it. It's more of an espresso. I usually like to do 2 shots of espresso with some foam on top, which is amazing if you haven't tried the Starbucks toffee latte. It's so good and so worth it. I'm extremely grateful for my husband because he got us this machine and it's a lifesaver. I usually start prepping his milk anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes before he has to feed because I know it's a little bit of a process and sometimes Gianni might need some help or want milk himself. So I just try to be prepared for everything and anything. So again, I'm hooking up his medicines and I'm going to go ahead and run the milk through like I normally do. As I'm doing this, AJ usually has a movie on for the kids. He's also playing with them. And then he will transfer Gabriel's high flow machine back into the room. He'll also help me vent Gabriel and change his diaper and just get him settled to go to sleep because a lot of times Gabriel has a really hard time going to sleep. He really doesn't go to sleep until after his feeds, and that could be 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And then I have to vent him and then try to get him to go to sleep. Lately, he's been a little bit better. He's actually been falling asleep a little bit earlier, either during the feed. But we love to let him just walk around and just play so that he gets a little bit tired. And then we do another vent right before we know we're going to put him into his bed. I also have the TV on for him so that he is entertained. I give him his favorite blankie, hook him up to the high flow, and then I have to tape his pull sock onto his foot. This monitor actually will gauge his oxygen saturation as well as his heart rate for me. If he kicks too much or it comes off his foot, the alarm goes off, or if something's wrong, the alarm goes off, and it gives me a heart attack every single time. Once he is done with his feed, I clean everything up and he's asleep. Then I can go to sleep, and that's about 2 a.m. and that is our day.